ABC24 This Week starts right now.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on ABC24 This Week. I'm your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories, and I hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday at either 9 a.m., 10:35 p.m., or on 24+. All right, let's see who is at the table today. As always, ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. We have Susan Thorpe of Thorpe Communications and Reverend Kenneth Whalum of New Olivet Worship Center. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, we got an action-packed show, so topics for today. First, Memphis's elected leaders in the U.S. Congress give their input on President Trump's recent controversial comments about the war in Iran. Then second, the Memphis-Shelby County Schools audit is still a talker, and this week, people are pointing fingers at former superintendents. Lastly, we're going to try out a new concept called political pressure. Early voting for Shelby County primaries are next week, and our panelists will have to quickly answer questions about some of the key races. But back to number one, U.S. President Donald Trump pulled back on his threats to launch devastating strikes on Iran late Tuesday as the U.S. and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire that includes the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran's Supreme National Security Council said it has accepted the ceasefire and that it would negotiate with the United States and Pakistan beginning Friday. But before that agreement, Trump made two very alarming posts on Truth Social. The first one on Easter Sunday, April 5th, Trump posted, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran." He went on to use expletives to say, "Open the effing strait, you crazy B word that I'm not going to say." Then on Tuesday, April 7th, less than 2 hours before Trump's deadline for Tehran to capitulate to a deal or face attacks, the first two lines of his post read, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Memphis sent us a statement calling those comments a call for genocide and says they go too far. That statement went on to say the cabinet has the 25th Amendment to rein in this unhinged behavior and remove him from office. Republican U.S. Congressman David Kustoff of Memphis did an interview with Pamela Brown on CNN's The Situation Room, defending Trump after Brown read the Easter Sunday post. Take a listen.
How hopeful are you that approach will bring Iran to the table?
Well, thank you for having me on this morning. Obviously, when the President of the United States speaks, everybody listens. That message was completely tailored for the Iranian leadership. And I think that obviously with Witkoff and Kushner involved in the negotiations and negotiation at a certain level, having the President communicate where he is. And there should be no doubt that when Donald Trump speaks and threatens to do something, he's going to follow up. So he delivered that message. He delivered it very clearly in language that probably only Donald Trump can use, and Iran is on the clock.
So I will open this up to you, Otis. So we heard from Cohen and Kustoff, both Memphis representatives here, congressmen. What are your takeaways from their responses?
Well, first of all, let's just say that the president's language both times was reprehensible. I don't think any right-thinking person will disagree with that. So let me go to Cohen first. Cohen is, along with other Democrats, are saying that this is a time for the 25th Amendment, which allows the cabinet to step in and seek removal of the president. This is time for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. And he's not the only one who's saying that. And he's also talking about, as he said in that statement, this is clearly a call for genocide. Are you serious? We're talking about genocide here. So Cohen is and other Democrats are doing that. But let me talk about Kustoff here for a second. He's doing what he's told to do by Republicans in leadership, because he very seldom goes on CNN. He spends most of his time on Fox and Newsmax and some of these other things. And there was no other person that I think would have been willing to go on CNN and defend this kind of thing. Shame on Kustoff for even saying that Donald Trump is the only one who could get away with this and not denounce genocide. That is ridiculous. And let me say one other thing. In 2009, President Obama said something that made the Republicans go ballistic. And what he said simply was a police officer who arrested Harvard law professor Henry Louis Gates at his own house acted stupidly. That's what President Obama said. And the Republicans went crazy and basically forced him to sort of backtrack a little bit and then hold a beer summit with the police officer and Henry Louis Gates. He didn't call the officer stupid. He said he acted stupidly. Donald Trump has called the Supreme Court stupid. There is hypocrisy all over the place here with Republicans, and they all should hang their head in shame.
Reverend Whalum, to what Kustoff said about, President Trump says it in the way President Trump can. Is there some sort of does he get away with saying whatever he can, or should there be a little more accountability to holding Trump's feet to the fire whenever he makes these posts?
Well, Trump obviously can say whatever he wants to say because he's saying it. Kustoff, I'm disappointed in, as I'll just agree with Otis on that point. But with regard to what Congressman Cohen said in invoking the 25th Amendment, it is available. It's going to be really hard to implement something like that because it requires the president to be mentally incapacitated. And that's going to require a lot of time to determine. And then the vice president and the majority of the cabinet would have to declare the president. That's a waste of time.
Never going to happen.
So let's just go forward.
And Susan, escalation or de-escalation, the strategy here, it seems like Trump is taking more of the escalation approach, but is that effective?
Well, no, it's not effective, and that's his approach for a lot of things that have been ineffective. I agree with Congressman Cohen that, what he did, he threatened mass murder, and this is a man who holds the nuclear codes, so that's frightening. But for full disclosure on Kustoff, we've been friends for many years. I even donated to his first campaign. So I've always liked David. I don't agree with the way he votes. I vehemently disagree with his position on CNN about this incident. For David to say that Donald Trump's message was tailored by Trump for the Iranian government, that's political BS. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. To say that Trump's foul and offensive language is the language that only Trump can use, that's not true. Anybody can use that language. But people who have a sense of decency and civility about them, especially in the role of President of the United States, don't say that. What David is trying to do, David Kustoff, is trying to stay on the good side of President Trump. Right. But he's also on the wrong side of history.
Right.
And I was thinking about this coming into the studio today. What is David Kustoff going to tell his children in years to come when they ask him, why didn't you stand up to Donald Trump and say he was wrong, particularly because David Kustoff used to be a former U.S. attorney who upheld the law?
Absolutely.
Great.
Do you all want to? That's a great point, Susan.
I fully agree. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And let me reiterate my disappointment with David Kustoff. I can only surmise that David doesn't want to stop where he is now. I think he probably wants to go up the ladder politically, either in D.C. or in Tennessee. That's the only explanation I can come up with. But again, I'm very disappointed.
Well, I think to expound on that just a little bit, David represents the most conservative district in the state of Tennessee. And any threat to his position in Congress is not going to come from the left. It's going to come to the right of him. So he needs to stay as far right as he can, and this is perhaps one of those positions.
I agree with that, but part of his district is in the city of Memphis. And he has constituents here.
Yeah.
And he is totally ignoring them.
Absolutely.
He doesn't care about them. Because anybody, as I said at the beginning, Pepper, anybody who has a right-thinking brain knows that these were reprehensible comments, and David should never, he should have just stayed away from CNN and not even talk about this at all. You haven't heard anybody else talk about it. Why did he have to do it? I think that he was the sacrificial lamb here to go up there and try to defend this, and it made him look totally foolish.
Well, Well, Susan, if you guys are friends, I expect he'll probably be calling you after watching this.
Well, I've been friends with him too
Yeah,
for many years.
Well, I haven't, and I think he should be ashamed of himself.
All right, thank y'all for that one. When we come back, we're going to talk about the MSCS audit and more finger pointing this time around. We'll get into it. Stay with us.